The banyan tree had stood at the edge of the village longer than anyone could remember. Its roots twisted and curled like the lines on an old palm, reaching deep into the earth, holding stories of generations who had rested beneath its shade. Birds nested in its branches, children played around its trunk, and elders gathered there every evening as the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold. It was under this ancient tree that little Anaya sat beside her grandmother one quiet afternoon, watching dry leaves fall gently to the ground. Her grandmother, Shanta Devi, was old now, her hair silver, her back slightly bent, her hands marked by time. Yet her eyes still shone with a softness that made people feel safe, as though she carried the answers to questions they had not yet learned to ask. Anaya was only 10 years old, but her heart felt heavy that day. "Grandma," she said softly, "why do people look sad even when they have everything?" Shanta Devi smiled, a knowing smile, and reached into the folds of her sari. From there, she pulled out a small, old brass key, its surface worn smooth from years of handling. "This," she said gently, placing it in Anaya's palm, "is the key to happiness." Anaya blinked in surprise. "A real key?" she asked. "What does it open?" Her grandmother chuckled, the sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "It opens something far more important than doors," she said. "But to understand it, you must hear a story. A long one." Anaya leaned closer, and so, beneath the banyan tree, as the afternoon breeze whispered through the leaves, Shanta Devi began.
"Once," her grandmother said, "there was a girl not very different from you. She lived in this same village, ran barefoot on these same paths, and dreamed of a life bigger than the sky above her. That girl was Mira. Mira grew up poor, but she was sharp-minded and ambitious. She watched traders pass through the village with fine clothes and confident smiles. She listened to stories of cities filled with lights, wealth, and opportunity, and she promised herself one thing: I will never live a small life. Mira studied harder than anyone else. While other children played, she read. While others slept, she dreamed. Her parents were proud but worried. Happiness, her mother would say, is not found by chasing too much. But Mira did not listen. She believed happiness lived somewhere else, in money, success, and recognition. When she finally left the village for the city, she carried nothing but a bag of clothes and a heart full of expectations. The city welcomed Mira with noise, crowds, and opportunity. She worked tirelessly, climbing step by step. She earned promotions, bought fine clothes, and moved into a larger home. People admired her. "You're so successful," they said. "You're lucky," they said. "You must be very happy," they said. And Mira smiled. But every night, when the city fell silent, she felt a strange emptiness. Each achievement brought excitement, briefly. Then the hunger returned. More money, more recognition, more comfort. She believed happiness was one step ahead, always just out of reach. Years passed. Mira married, had children, and built a life many envied. Yet she rarely laughed. She was always busy, always tired, always chasing the next milestone. And without realizing it, she had forgotten how to be present. One monsoon season, Mira received a letter from her village. Her mother was ill. She rushed back, annoyed more than concerned, thinking of unfinished work waiting in the city. When she arrived, she found her mother lying weak but smiling. "My child," her mother said softly, "sit with me." Mira checked her phone, emails, calls, deadlines, but she sat. They talked about old days, simple joys, laughter beneath the banyan tree. That night, her mother passed away peacefully, and for the first time in decades, Mira felt truly broken. Standing beneath the same banyan tree where she had once played, she realized something painful. She had spent her entire life running toward happiness, but never living it. One evening, while sitting alone under the tree, Mira noticed an old woman approaching. She was frail, leaning on a stick, her eyes kind and sharp. "You look lost," the woman said. "I am," Mira replied honestly. The old woman reached into her pocket and handed Mira a small brass key. "This is the key to happiness," she said. Mira laughed bitterly. "If happiness had a key," she said, "I would have bought it long ago." The old woman smiled. "Then you would have bought the wrong one." She sat beside Mira and said, "Happiness is not something you unlock by gaining more. It opens when you learn how to hold what you already have." And then she began to explain.
The 5 truths of happiness. The old woman spoke slowly, as though each word mattered. First truth, happiness lives in gratitude. If you are always looking at what you lack, she said, you will never see what you have. She taught Mira to begin each day by noticing 3 things she was grateful for. Small things: warm tea, a quiet morning, a familiar face. Second truth, happiness grows when shared. Joy multiplies when given, she said, but shrinks when hoarded. Mira began spending time with her children, not just providing for them, but listening, laughing, being present. Third truth, happiness needs simplicity. The heart is light when life is uncloned, the woman said. Mira slowly let go of unnecessary desires, endless comparisons, and the need to impress. Fourth truth, happiness requires acceptance. You cannot control everything, she said. Peace comes from knowing the difference. Mira learned to accept failure, aging, loss, and herself. And fifth truth, happiness exists only in the present. Yesterday is memory, the woman said. Tomorrow is imagination. But today is life. Mira stayed in the village longer than planned. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. She laughed more. She slept better. She felt lighter. When she returned to the city, her life looked the same, but she was different. She worked, but without obsession. She earned, but without attachment. She lived, but without fear. And for the first time, she felt truly happy, not because life was perfect, but because she was at peace. Years later, Mira became a grandmother, and one day she sat beneath the banyan tree with her own granddaughter. Shanta Devi stopped speaking and looked at Anaya, who had been listening with wide eyes. "Grandma," Anaya whispered, "was Mira you?" Shanta Devi smiled. "Yes." She placed the small brass key into Anaya's hand. "This key," she said, "does not open doors. It opens understanding." Anaya held it carefully. "So, what is the key to happiness?" she asked. Her grandmother replied softly, "Be grateful for what you have. Be kind with what you give. Be simple in what you want. Be patient with what you cannot change. And be present in every moment you are alive." The leaves fell quietly around them, and under the ancient banyan tree, the key to happiness passed from one generation to the next.